Hello everybody, my name is Phancy and I'm here to introduce you to Phancy Talk Show, a show that will be all about creating awareness on different issues that we encounter in life. As we all know, life does not come with a manual, and hence we encounter so many things, among them mental health issues, parenting issues, name them. And so this talk show is inspired by bringing experts on different fields to come and give us insights on how we are going to handle these issues. Karibu sana. Don't forget to comment, like, share and subscribe. Hello guys, I hope you are keeping well. My name is Phancy and I'm here to welcome you to Phancy Talk Show once again. For those who are new in this space, kindly subscribe to this channel. And today we have a guest who is a mental health expert, but I would love him to tell us more about himself. Karibu sana.
Yes, thank you, Phancy. My good name is Kagondu Jr., a counseling psychologist and also a transformational coach working with Mindcare Africa, where we heal nations and transform lives. And I'm very passionate when it comes to issues to do with mental health.
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you. Today, on today's topic, we are going to discuss mental health and masculinity toxicity. Okay, so what is mental health and how does it affect our men? Maybe that should be our starting point.
A beautiful question right there. When you talk about mental health, it's a state of well-being, yes. Right? And when you think about this particular aspect, it's good that you get to appreciate that mental health, just like any other health concern. Talk about the physical health. I normally give the narrative whereby someone who breaks their hand, we are very quick to take them to the hospital, and that tells you that we are keen with the physical health. But with the mental health, there's an element of stigma, shame that comes with it, and that's why with men, as much as you know, they are known to be very strong, brave, and courageous, they shy off, especially from this particular topic. Why? Because of how the world has portrayed them, and of course the orientation from a tender age to by the time that they are growing up. So they tend to shy off, and no wonder you find that most of them are really affected when it comes to issues with mental health.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what I've loved about what you've said is the fact that, you know, since the tender age when we are bringing up boys, we as parents, we are training these boys it's not okay to cry, it's not okay to express yourself. So we are suppressing their emotions. And so by doing this, I think they grow knowing they should not talk out. Could this be the reason why we are having issues with men not being able to talk out?
Yeah, the way that we are nurtured contributes highly to the kind of a person that you become later on in life. And we normally say that the ages of between 0 to 10 years, they're very critical when it comes to how we bring up a child. Why? Because this is where they get to, we kind of formulate, you know, the kind of a personnel that we get, and especially in future. And when you quite harsh and you really suppress their feelings, then that tells you this is someone who is going to grow up without having the capacity to deal with the emotions. And no wonder you hear most couples, and especially with ladies, complaining that, you know, you are not in touch with emotions. You don't know how to make me feel loved. You're not, you know, an emotional human being. Yeah, that was taken away from a very tender age. And that's why it's very important for every other parent who is out there to be aware that whenever they're bringing up a boy, this is someone who will in future turn out to be a father to someone, an uncle to someone, talk about a husband to someone. And with this, with that kind of a title, then they are dealing and interacting with different people. And that tells you that's why it's very important for us to be in a position to empower and support this particular young boy to be in a space whereby they can be able to deal with emotions. And that tells you in this day and age, we're having so many issues, and especially at the family setup. And so many broken families, talk about toxic relationships in families, the dysfunctional families. And one of the main contributors, it would be how one was brought up at a very tender age. That's why it's very important, you know, to really take care of the boys at that young age.
Sure. So now tell us, does depression or the mental illness manifest differently in women and in men?
Well, when you talk about mental health, and especially mental health conditions, there are a number of them. And you have mentioned depression. You can also think of something like schizophrenia, talk about bipolar, talk about PTSD. And when all these conditions present themselves, they do manifest in different ways. Of course, when you think about where a man is and a woman is, as much as you are so different when it comes to the physical or rather the biological makeup, the presentation, it will be similar, though there are differences when it comes to the different mental health conditions. One, it will be even how we are molded, okay? And the way some of these conditions will manifest, it all entirely depends with even how we conduct ourselves. When you think about depression, this is a condition whereby one is so low and they are really, they don't find the zeal, you know, to interact or even to conduct themselves in the same way that they were doing way before, all right? So you find that there's a state of hopelessness. One may get to a point whereby they no longer feel that they're important in life. They may also get to a point whereby they no longer find it fit to interact with the social world out there. You know, there are those who really love interacting with people out there. And when one has gotten into depression, you may find them withdrawing, you know, from the social circle. You can also think of a situation whereby where one was really grooming themselves in a good way, like the way you're smart today, one may cease to do so, and they don't see the importance of doing that. And you may find that in such a situation with women, because of even the roles that we play, the different roles that men and women play, then even the manifestation may be a bit different in terms of how it presents itself. We can think of a lady who is taking care of their kids. That tells you that this is someone who is not going to play their role as a mother in the right way. If it is the man who was fending for the family, then this is highly affected. And you may find some people who they totally don't see, you know, the importance of taking care of themselves, and that tells you they won't be in a position to take care of another person. So yes, there could be some slight differences, but the manifestation and the symptoms could be quite similar in terms of how depression is going to present itself.
Okay.
Yes.
I was looking at the statistics, and suicidal cases in men are very high. And this takes us back to, you know, the upbringing of a boy child. And I was wondering, are girls brought up in a manner that they're so empowered that even when they encounter storms of life, they're able to maneuver, unlike the boys? Or where do we really draw this line? Because as a mother of boys and a mother, you know, of a girl, I don't find myself like separating when it comes to parenting. But then when you find that when these people pick up in life, the way they handle issues is very different. What happens?
Totally different.
Yes.
And I'm happy when you say that you don't separate the two, you know, the boys from the girl, okay? And that means that you're empowered. Most of the parents out there, they have a challenge when it comes to that. And I've seen that, and especially at the places of worship. If you're keen to just observe how we handle the boys and the girls, it will be a replica of what happens at home. I've noted that in most cases when the young fellas are going to the Sunday school session, they might finish up a bit earlier compared to what is happening with the parents in the main sanctuary. And you may find them, you know, coming to PIP, trying to just figure out what is happening in the main sanctuary. And you may find some ushers who are not, you know, mindful of the well-being of these children. The way that they handle the boys and the girls, it will be totally different. You'll find that for the boys, they'll be chased away, and they'll be called some funny names, so that, you know, you're mannerless and you need to be out there, you know, being chased away. But the way that we handle the girls, it will be in a very tender way, you know.
We are gentle.
Very gentle. Kamami, kindly talk hapa, because ABCD is happening.
We start baby girl treatment when they're young.
From a very young age, okay? You can even think about what happens in our homes, If you see a young boy, when they fall down and they are crying, what is the most likely thing to do,
Amka wanaume hawali.
Wanaume hawali. What about the girl? Kamami pole sana. To a point whereby you want to dust them off and really be comforting compared to how we are. And that tells you that the boys will grow up in a state of survival mode, whereby they're just trying to fit in and also, survive with what life throws onto them, right? Whereas for the girl, there's an element of a good support system, which is very critical when it comes to issues to do with mental health. And when one is facing issues, remember, and especially as a grown-up, whatever was deposited in you, so the mind is divided into three parts, the conscious, the subconscious, and the unconscious. And with the subconscious, I call that the bank, where a lot of the experiences that we go through are deposited. And when you talk about this young fella, this young boy, this young girl, between the ages of 0 to 10 years, any experience that they go through is going to be deposited in the subconscious mind. And no wonder you find someone, say, in their adult life, having some issues, say, with their self-esteem, talk about even presenting themselves in the presence of other people, and they don't know where this is coming from. You may find someone who is very bitter in a case scenario, say in a relationship, in marriage, okay? And whenever a couple gets into some sexual encounter, you may find that one is reserved and they really don't want to get into that. And if you dig deep back into the days, you may find that maybe there was some sort of assault, and no wonder there is an element of fear that comes with it. No. Telling you that any experience, any encounter that this young person goes through, it gets deposited in their subconscious mind. And later on in life, it's going to present itself in terms of the fears, the phobias that we have. And if we are not keen enough, then these are the same people that you find that they are not really in touch with the emotions. They don't know how to handle difficult situations in life. Why? Because there was an encounter that they had. And no wonder you find that most men, and especially at this time and age, most of them, they don't have the capacity to deal with emotions, and especially with challenges that they do face in life.
Does that explain the reason why most men don't take no as an answer?
It could be. You may find that the family setup, like I had said before, it plays a key role, and especially with the kind of a person that we turn out to be. And in a case scenario where there is no, that comes out, say in a decision that has to be made, you may find someone whose privileges were actually taken away, or even in a situation whereby they were really abused. Talk about emotionally, psychologically. It could be this is someone who grew up in a space whereby it was either the parents or anyone who was significant in their life, their way or the highway. So there was no room for them to, give an opinion or even make a decision on their own. So that tells you that this could be, the onset of all this could be coming from somewhere else. Okay.
Now, I'm wondering, the boy child, from the tender age, or rather, let's go back to the Bible. From the Bible, you see men have been given roles, okay? It is not easy from the onset, from the creation. You are, God entrusted you with so much. And so when we are bringing up boys, I think as parents, I tend to think as parents, maybe we have this in mind. And so we want them to man up. Man up is make them, they're able to resist, they're able to overcome, they're able to lead. Is there a way we can do that without really hurting these boys' emotions and bringing them in a healthy way?
That's a good one, and especially considering the many issues that we've seen in the society, in our families, we can see the number of broken homes that we have, the many fights. In fact, we live in a society that is full of bitter people, and that tells you that the onset could have contributed highly to all this. Of course, there are many other factors that may lead to this. And when you think about the boy and the many roles that we play, I'm happy that you're bringing up that question, because there's a book that we have done with my good friend Paul. And the title of the book is Becoming a Man. Okay. And what we have tried to do is to look into the different developmental stages. And of course, with each and every developmental stage one goes through, and especially a man, they are the roles that one has to play. And we hear the man as the protector. We have seen our fathers protecting their families, their loved ones, or even anyone that is of importance to them. Talk about when you talk about the protector, you can think as a man as a provider. And in most cases, you have found young kids, you know, who have been left or rather neglected by their parents, or even where their parents have passed on, being the ones who are providing for the other siblings. All right, and when you think of a boy, a young one, who from a tender age, they have to face all these responsibilities. They have to play the role of an adult at a tender age. Then you may find this affecting them way much in future. And you may find that the world may not be kind to them. There could be, may not be compassion. They may not share compassion with them. And especially in a homestead whereby we are not mindful. And that tells you, as we bring up these kids, these boys, these girls, it's very important that we also be very mindful. And this is where we say that it's good that we be compassionate, and especially with their well-being. Why? Because it is very important. Remember, when a young boy faces a lot of harsh conditions when they are growing up, this may turn out to be a turning point, especially whereby they become better or bitter. And especially if they don't get the right kind of support that they require, then they may turn out to be so bitter with life and everybody who is around them.
Okay. Yeah. We obviously don't want to bring bitter boys. We want to bring up better boys will turn up to be, you know, good men in the society. So will you give us tips on how we can do that as parents?
Beautiful. As a parent, I normally say that parents, the parenthood is one of the careers that we get the certificate before we go to school. Okay, so most parents out there are never prepared for this, for such an encounter. You may hear most of them saying that this was just a situation, and I found myself being a daddy, being a mommy. Okay, telling you that most of them were not really ready for all this. But does that mean that we give up along the way? It doesn't. And that tells you that as parents, we really need to get empowered. And this is why I say that as a parent, if you don't heal from the wounds that you have gotten, say, from your childhood, your youth, then your child will be forced to heal from those wounds. And that tells you it will be a bitter and not a really nice encounter for this particular young person. Why? Because for them, they engage in wars that are not theirs. They engage in situations or even issues that they should not be handling at that particular time. So that tells you that as a parent, one, you need to get empowered, and that tells you that you also need to be to heal from the many wounds that you may have gone through, because there's a tendency for parents to repeat the same mistakes that their parents, you know, are made. And this is where you find that a man who was not happy with their father, the way that their father brought them up, they find themselves repeating the same mistakes. Yet they are not happy about it, but in a way they find themselves doing the same, repeating the same mistake. And that tells you it's very important for them to really get empowered. Why do I say this so? You find that when we have a new couple, even before they get into marriage, there's a tendency of the premarital counseling, okay, which is good and very important, because it does help us prepare you for that particular phase where you turn out to be a husband or even a wife to someone, talk about being a parent to someone. And with all these changes, there could be an element of, where you find yourself not really prepared for all this. But it's equally important for you to also go through post-marital counseling, and especially where kids come into the picture, children come into the picture, telling you that you need someone to work with you, to help you deal with the many dynamics that come with it. Because remember, if you have 2 or 3 kids, the way that you bring them up, it will be totally different. Every child is a child to you, all right, in their own unique way. So you can't say that I have 2 or 3 kids and my parenting to all these kids, it's one way of parenting. Remember, they come with their own personalities. It could be their traits, temperaments, the way that they conduct themselves, the way they handle issues, all right? So that tells you that as a parent, you need to be empowered to deal with this. And as much as you find that most of the people out there, they're into business and they really want to advance in their career, most of them, they really want to go back for the short courses, learn about managing finances, managing human resource back in the office. But how often do you go back for some short course, say on parenting? And that tells you it's very important for you to work on you and really empower yourself. The other thing, it will be, we normally talk about mentorship, and no one is an island. As much as we talk about marriage as being unique to this particular couple and not the same with the other couples, it's equally important for couples to have mentors, have someone who can work with you, and especially one who has gone through, what you're about to face, right? Someone who has been there before. Let them guide you in the right way, how they were able to handle their children. You don't have to repeat the same things or even do the way that they did, but you can borrow a few things from them. And this is why it's very important for us to do that, to have mentors who can work with you and guide you in the right way. The other thing, it's good that we be present with our kids. Most of us are so busy when it comes to, doing other stuff at the workplace and all that, all right? But we are never present with our children. And that tells you that most of the parents, they'll get in a space whereby they are a bit surprised when they find that someone is coming to pay the dowry, their child's dowry, or even their son is telling them, I want to pay dowry for someone else, right? And they're like, when did you grow up? So that tells you that many will miss out on that particular important phase, all right? So it's good that we really get empowered, and especially, for us to be very present. It's good that we be compassionate. Let's not bring our emotions into the family, and especially spilling over, projecting to our children, because there could be you have gone through a certain issue at the workplace, or even you have some differences with your wife, yet you want to project the same issues to the children, and that will end up hurting them more than ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a debate that has been going online for some time now about caning children. And I tend to see, like, in boys' school, I happen to school in a mixed school, and you will see clearly the teachers are using excess force on boys than on girls. And when you look at that, it's because boys have been, we have a notion of they are hard, even to their response of discipline matters. So has this brought, or has this made the childhood, part of childhood traumas to be worse?
Yes, and when you talk about a school setup, most of these kids are coming from dysfunctional families, and they may think that this space they call the school, this is where they are going to find some safety, because a child has a number of needs. Talk about their safety, the support, and the care, right? And the reason why most of the kids like it in school, it's because they get some of these needs met, and especially when it comes to their safety. And when they come to school and they find that their teachers, who happen to be their second parents, being brutal and being very harsh to them, hurting them more and not being very mindful of the issues that they go through, then this particular child will be disoriented in a very big way. And schools have contributed highly to the trauma that most children go through. And you may hear teachers who are also wounded, and especially from where they are coming from, are projecting to these children, okay? And that tells you that this is not someone who is fit to be in that particular space, taking care of other young people. And this is why it's very important for parents and especially teachers. I always tell them that these students, they look up to you as a source of safety for them. Secondly, they may find that in school, this is where they feel that it's quite safe for them. So whenever you turn out to be something else, then that element of feeling secure is taken away from them. And this is where you find that one child who was hurt at home, they end up being hurt in school. Then they also project to the other children, okay? And no wonder you're having so many young people who are doing all manner of stuff in terms of having issues with their discipline, and there could be the contributing factor. It could be those in their space, and those who they look up to, those who they really they hope that they can instill an element of safety to them. So when you find that teachers are not mindful, and especially when it comes to discipline, mind you, I'm not against discipline, you know, discipline a child, but we can do it in a very supportive way. And this is where teachers need to be very mindful and also, you know, get into reality, and especially where they are human enough to handle this particular case. And we have seen that most of the children who present indiscipline themselves with an element of indiscipline, it's not that they really want to be indisciplined, it's not that they are really indisciplined, it's only that they're handling issues from that particular perspective. Telling you, if we can have it in mind that there are different stages that a child goes through. There's a space whereby they can be caned, there's also a space whereby they can be talked to. And I'm imagining a person in a high school, someone who is of a sound mind, somebody who you can be able to have a dialogue with, somebody who you can be able to talk with. This is somebody, if you sit them down and tell them this is what is expected of you, they will listen. Instead of, you know, projecting all your anger and issues to this particular young person.
Tell me, is it possible to identify, you know, a bitter child when they are growing up, or does it have to be, you will identify it when it's already, the damage is so much done? And at what point maybe can we be able to rectify these things, or some we have to let them move with them like that? You know, with the challenging thing and with the young children is that most of them cannot be able to express what they go through verbally, what they experience verbally, you know. So a child who is going through discomfort, someone who has issues with anxiety, you hear most of them say that they have issues with their tummy. And when you think about the 5 main emotions, you can think of anger, talk about the guilt, think about the anxiety, talk about the sadness, the other need to be happiness, all right? When you think about that, the way that they manifest to us as adults, it will be totally different, you know, because we're able to express how we feel. If I'm happy, then you'll be able to pick that from the face value. If I'm anxious, you'll be able to pick someone saying that I'm really feeling anxious, because we can be able to describe or even, you know, express how we feel. But for the young kids, it will be totally different. And no wonder you find that most of them, they'll present such, say, with indiscipline, you know, where you find maybe they're a bit brutal, or even they have fighting tendencies with their schoolmates. Talk about missing school. Talk about some kids complaining about tummy ache, and especially on a Monday morning, where yet they had a whole weekend, you know, having fun and all that. But when they think about going back to school, they'll say that they're having some headaches. Talk about issues to do with their diet. It could be even their sleeping patterns. As a parent, this is what we need to be on the lookout, okay? Being in a position whereby we can tell that there's something that has changed about this particular child. And if you're not present, if you're not really playing your role as a parent in the right way,
I don't think you'll be in a position to be able to pick the changes, and especially with the child. So we are urged to be very present with our kids. You know, work with them, be with them in every other milestone that they get to achieve. Be with them in the morning, and especially if we have to prepare the kids to go to school, we don't have to leave that out to the house help, you know, the house manager, because this is where we tend to miss out on such issues. You know, you may have a child who has been physically abused, say in school, but you're not in a position to pick that because you have like delegated all your duties to the house manager. And that's why as a father, when you go back home, it's good that you also get to have a moment with your kids, get to ask them how they have been. And you know, it's quite unfortunate that in most our homesteads, when they get to hear their daddy, you know, all of them, they disappear. They go into the bedroom. And telling you that in case your child has an issue, then they're not in a position to tell you what they go through. Mummies, ensure that you also participate, you know, taking care and preparing the kids, you know, to go to school. And as much as, yes, we are busy, it's always good that you get to create time for them.
That is very profound. And I can relate because personally, I took it upon me to wake my kids up. I'm the alarm. I want to set their mood when they're going to school. And I always see they love it. I actually put, you know, this good music that they love, kids music. So by the time we are preparing, they actually make their bed, they are happy, we go have breakfast together. I see them off if I'm not leaving early, but when I'm leaving, I drop them off to school. And I really see that made even my daughter, who was, you know, when they are getting to school, they don't love school, they want to cry. It really made her love school, and she looks forward. So that is very profound. The days we are living, we cannot ignore dysfunctional families. That has become a real issue in the society. And many families are breaking up, or even at the family level, they are there but they are not functioning. And so we've left mothers to parents. We've left mother to parent the boys, we've left mother to parent, you know, the girls, and most of the times the fathers are absent. And there's a notion that is there in the society, though I tend to disagree with that notion. People saying, you know, when boys are brought up by their mothers, they grow up to have, not to be very sufficient. Yes, I tend to disagree because what I feel, kids just need, you know, an adult who is aware to bring them up. What is your take on that?
I like that, and especially in a situation whereby a lot has changed when it comes to how we define a family. We hear of single parent-headed families. It could be the daddy, it could be the mommy. You can also have an element of grandparents who are bringing up the kids. You could also have kids bringing up kids, you know, in a situation where none of the parents is in existence. There's a situation whereby we have adoption, you know, where we have the foster parents and all that. And back to, you know, what you are saying, in a situation whereby mommy is the only one who's bringing up the kids, the concern will be, do they miss out on anything? In our book, Becoming a Man, we have clearly categorized or even, you know, portrayed the importance of the father figure in a family setup, okay? And it doesn't mean that you need to have the father per se, you know, but having a male who is playing the critical role of bringing up the kids is very important. Remember, a cub requires a lion to bring out the lion in them, okay? And that tells you the boy needs a man to bring out the man in them. And when you get to hear some people having the reservations, and especially where the mother is the only one who is playing out the role of the father and the mother, it's very important to have both figures, the male and the female figures, when you're bringing up the child. Why? Because with the boy, the father teaches them how to be courageous, you know, to be very in charge, you know, how to face challenges, how to, you know, strike a balance between the different roles that we are saying. When you think of a mother figure, this will play, they will help the children to bring out the emotional part of them, right? So the reason why I'm really in touch with them, with my emotions, is because I had women around me. The reason why I'm quite courageous, I'm brave, and I'm really in charge of myself. I have an idea of who being a man is. It's because I also had male figures in my life, and that's why it's very important for you, for a family, and especially for children, to have both male and female figures around them. And the question is, in a situation whereby we don't have a father, then what should we do? And this is where we say there is no child without a father. Right? There is no child who should be brought up without experiencing the love of a male figure. Right? So the question is, if the father is not there, do you have brothers? Do you have uncles? Is there a mentor, a male mentor, who can step in, into the shoes and be in a position to bring out the lion in this particular cub, okay? Why? Because if you don't do that, then this child will be missing out on a very important aspect of their growing up. So with that concern, to me, it's very important that they get to have an encounter with both a female figure and a male figure.
Okay.
Yes.
That is very profound as well. But I'm also thinking, there's a lady out there who is not comfortable with the brothers, who's not comfortable with the cousins, who is not comfortable with the male figures around him, because of the obvious reasons. We've seen how the society has turned, the abuse these kids are going through. Sometimes it's from the people we trusted. Are there programs where these kids can be enrolled by so that they can be nurtured by a professional?
Beautiful. This is a gap that you have seen, and when I tell you that there is a manuscript coming up for the boy child, this is the gap that we encountered, and especially with the single-headed households where we have women bringing up the kids, right? And especially the boys. And when you talk about the mentors, we don't have to have a physical encounter with the mentors. We can have an experience through interactions, say in this time and age where we have the YouTube and all that, whereby they can have someone who they look up to, getting to listen to them, sharing with their lessons. We also, when you think about a situation whereby we say the kind of a person that turn out to be, it will be through the books that I read, talk about the friends that I interact with, and the places that I go. This plays out this role in a very big way. And no wonder in a book like Becoming a Man that Paul and I have done, it is very important. Why? Because it does come in to fit into the gap, whereby we guiding the boys on how to bring out the man in them. In a situation whereby I don't have a male figure, I don't have a father figure who can be able to tell me what is expected of me, then such material is very important. And this is where we're saying that for one to look for a mentor, it doesn't have to be a physical or even having a one-on-one interaction. There are so many other materials that we can they can go through. In fact, with the book in mind, we are rolling out a project whereby mentorship across the 47 counties, whereby we are going to work with every other boy child, guiding them on the challenges that they face, telling them on what they're supposed to do, every other stage what is expected of them. We are hearing of cases whereby there's a lot of abuse, and like you have said that the reason why we see witnessing a lot of all this, it's because most of them they are really wounded, from a tender age, and through such programs, going to schools, going to churches and all that, we're able to have an encounter with these boys. So when you ask if there's a program for the boy child, yes, there are so many, and Becoming a Man is one of them, where we can be able to work with these boys, guiding them, nurturing them to be men of substance in future.
That's wonderful. Now, nowadays, we see relationships are really starting early. In colleges and universities, people are really serious with their relationship. And as people go along the way, you tend to find, I'm dealing with an injured person. I'm dealing with somebody who's battling childhood traumas. So how can you help this person, to be able Because I think most of them live in denial.
Yeah.
They don't want to accept it. How can you help such a person, and how can you cope with such a person?
You know, when we say that it's okay for us not to be okay, we forget the line that it's okay for you not to be okay, but it's okay for you to talk about it. Because in most cases, you find that we shy off from talking about the challenges that we face. Why? Because the world out there is kind of brutal. It's not friendly. Not many people are willing to really support you. In fact, it's said that whenever you share about the issues that you go through, the challenges that you go through, around 80% they're happy that you went through that. You know, they're happy that you had to experience that. 20% they really don't care about what you went through, whether you are wounded, whether you are hurt, and so on and so forth. And you find that a majority of the people, they tend to shy off from getting to talk about the challenges that they face. And this is the reason why you find that they are not willing to seek help, they're not willing to seek support. Why? Because there's the fear of being stigmatized. There's also the fear of stereotyping. And the reason why there's a lot of stigma out there, it's because majority of the people are not informed. And due to the lack of awareness, then the way that they handle issues, it will be wanting. And this is why you find that a majority of the people getting into new relationships, they have a lot of burden and unfinished business, you know, carrying from one relationship to the other, telling you that they are going to hurt the other person that they encounter. In fact, there is a saying that, you know, they're good boys. They are last to find love and all that, you know. They'll be the last ones to find happiness. But it's quite unfortunate, right? Because for them, they have to deal with a lot of wounded girls, all right? Same case happens to the girls. The good ones are the ones who end up having to deal with a lot of mess that this particular man that they are getting into an encounter has gone through, telling you that it should be a personal responsibility to ensure that you heal before you get into another relationship. Remember what I told you, that the majority of the people out there, they are really wounded, you know. Most of them, they are bleeding, you know, from all over. Why? Because for them, they have been hurt time and again, and whenever you interact with them, there's a lot of hurt that you're going to encounter. So for the young fellas, and especially those in colleges, we have seen most of them hurting one another. The cases of suicide are on the rise. The fights, you know, quarrels, verbal abuse, a lot of body shaming, talk, you know, name it, you know. There's a lot of that, and especially from those that they may consider that are potential, you know, spouses, you know, in the future. But that tells you that this particular person is wounded. And in case you have an encounter with such a person, it's always good that we get to encourage them that they need to seek help, you know. Be their source of strength, be the one to guide them, to show them where they can get that much needed help that they need.
But don't you think that is also strenuous? That those traumas may be transferred to the person. A trauma is not contagious, really.
It can be, and especially like we say, where one is bleeding on you every other time, hurting you, okay? And this is where we're saying, if I am healed, if I'm well balanced, and I say I meet someone who is not well balanced, at least I have the shock absorbers to deal with that particular issue. But how wonderful will it be if I'm healed and the other person is healed? You know, this will be such a beautiful encounter. Why? Because we don't have really to struggle with helping the other person come out of this particular issue, a particular situation. There won't be a lot of baggages, you know, from the past, which will be weighing us down, you know, denying us the opportunity to have a good encounter with one another. So it can be cumbersome, it can be quite exhausting, and especially where the significant other is not willing to deal and work on themselves. But I feel that we can be a great support system to one another if we have the know-how, and of course if we are healed ourselves. Yes.
Sometimes I feel like, you know, we should normalize therapy, because you may have sometimes you may be traumatized and you don't realize. And so each and every encounter you have with other people, you're just like a timed bomb. Whenever you talk with that person, you get hurt. Whenever he goes to another person, this applies to both male and female, you know, you are not even becoming relational because really you are really toxic. And sometimes you are in denial, so you are not accepting that is who you are. And as you've said, we fear stigma. People out here fear stigma, fear to be stereotyped. So how can we make people understand maybe why we are stigmatized is because we are getting into unsafe places to talk, okay? Like we need to go to to therapists, safe spaces where you can talk, you can vent, and at the end of it, you can be guided on how to go about the trauma.
Beautiful. Therapy, we can say that it's kind of foreign to our culture, but it's not really new because there's a way that the Africans used to do their thing, you know, at the fireplace when the boys are from, grazing the herd or even the cows. The women have come back from fetching the firewood or even the waters, and we are there at the fireplace, you know, talking about the issues and all that. And that is, to me, that was therapy for this particular family. It could fit into what we call, if not family therapy, it could be group therapy, okay? And having a sitting in an enclosed place whereby you're talking about issues that nobody else has given you the opportunity to talk about what is hurting you most. There's a tendency for one to shy off or even be a bit concerned to, get to disclose or even talk about the challenges that they go through, which is, I would say that I really understand where they're coming from, because there is also a tendency that you might have talked to your friends or even someone who is close to you. You shared all your secrets or even the challenges that you are facing, and they may backbite you or even talk ill about you, and you get to hear this from someone else. So this is someone who is telling you that I won't be very comfortable to get into a therapy room. But what is important is for us to create a lot of awareness. It's very important that we have this kind of shows, where we are telling the world out there, and especially our brothers and sisters, that it's okay to even talk about the issues that we go through. It's always, it's equally important for you, to seek the support of a therapist, a professional who understands, what you're going through. And the beauty about going for therapy, it would be that you have an encounter with someone who is not stigmatizing you, somebody who creates a safe space for you to express yourself, somebody who makes you feel safe. And like in the world out there, where you have all manner of, quacks or even people who purport to be your buddies, but at the end of it all, they're really happy to see you struggle. So therapy is very important, and I would really urge everybody who is out there, if you haven't had an encounter, with a therapist, then this is the best time, especially to be supported in the right way. And mind you, therapy is not for the sick people only. They say that, unaona mimi ni wazimu. You think that I'm bizarre. You think that I'm, I'm mad. That's why you suggest that I go see a therapist. Therapy is for anybody who wants to work on themselves, make themselves better. I have had encounters with professionals from other fields, talk about managers, talk about different personnel, from different organizations, who feel that they have not met their, been able to bring out the best in them. They have not been in a position to maximize their potential. And all that they want, it's not to deal with the issues, the challenges that they are facing, but to be in a position whereby they can be able to maximize on their productivity. And true to the word, most of them, they end up performing way much better, getting promotions, or even earning a higher salary compared to someone who is just sitting there, just thinking through hard and how to go around, beating around the bush, thinking about how to go about that particular issue. Yes.
Today we are talking about toxic masculinity, and we will not ignore the fact that, in the boys' circles, where even these men, when you're oppressed by something, you feel like you should have a safe space, sometimes not at home. But when you go to these boys, they're like, hey, bana, you can't come and tell us ulichapa na bibi. You need to man up.
Yes.
Okay? You can't come and show your weakness in terms of, you're losing a battle at a home setup. Man up. So I feel like we put a lot of burden, and the boy child is mostly left alone to battle all this. So if they're not aware of what is going on, they can lose it. So how do we tell these men it is okay not to feel okay, and it's okay to seek, that therapy? Because I feel like men also shy away a lot to do therapies.
When you talk about that, I'm reminded of a situation whereby we had so many women vying for elective posts, political seats. And you find that, like with the governor, we just had a few. If a lady was to vie for the presidential seat, then I don't think that they'll get as many votes, as they imagine. Absolutely. Yet the highest number of voters, it will be women, okay? Telling you that women are number one enemies to women. And equally, men are number one enemy to their fellow men. And like you're saying, you find that whenever I'm with my buddies and I tell them, hey, my friend, yesterday I had a good beating.
They'll start looking at you like less of a man.
And they'll be questioning, how capable am I? Are you not a man enough? Right? Yet, these are issues and challenges that most men are facing out there. In fact, you may find some have not eaten for the last like a week in their homes. They have to feed in some hotels or even, work themselves around that. Why? Because they shy away from, talking about the challenges that they are facing. And that's why, as men, like women have chamas, where the first encounter, if the chama was to last for like an hour, the first 45 minutes, it's for talking about how their family is, the many challenges, how they were beaten, calling men all manner of names, and the last 15 minutes, it will be entirely for business, telling you that this particular lady gets out of this particular space when they are healed, okay? So by the time that they are going back home, and they are really distressed when they are coming into the chama, they are already sorted. They don't even need you to, guide them or even walk with them. What if men would borrow a leaf from them? Instead of going to that kaloko, and the way that you support one another, it will be the one who buys more,
Chafua meza.
Brother, drink your sorrows away, That's the best kind of support that you get. What if we were listening to one another, all right? And not bashing one another for the challenges that you're facing. And that's why you find that when you think of men and mental health, we are losing so many men from mental health related conditions. Why? Because they don't have someone to listen to them. And it's so sad, to have it in mind that we have all this manner of empowered men, out there with some amazing careers, yet they don't have someone who they can turn out to, to talk to or even to share about the challenges that you're facing. So you find that with mental health, and especially where men come in, it doesn't mean that the reason why we are losing many men, it's that women don't face the mental health issues. In fact, women experience or even encounter mental health related conditions more than men. But we end up losing more men compared to women. Why? Because for men, they can be kind of brutal, to themselves. They are kind of harsh to themselves when it comes to dealing with the challenges that they face. And one of the reasons why they do so is because they don't have a good support system. If they had someone to listen to them, if they had someone who they can walk to for moral support, for guidance and all that, then the large number of men dying out of suicide, it will go way, way low.
Thank you very much. This was a very informative and, an amazing conversation we have had around male toxicity and, empowerment. But before we come to the end of the show, I would love you to talk about self-love in men. And there's something that I've seen going around, a meme about a man who was, you know, shopping in a supermarket, and he was picking something, and you know, his underwear was all tattered. To me, that did not sit well with me. Okay, and so I would love you to talk something to tell men about self-love. It is important to wajipende. It is important they take care of themselves, because these are the same men. When you go to these locals, they are having the most expensive brands of whiskey, okay? But hawana ile direct self-love to themselves. So I would love you to tell them it is important to love themselves and how they can do it.
Wow, I think it's very important, like you're saying, for men to love themselves and to be in touch with themselves. Because we are the same people who kind of tease them. Whenever we see them wearing some perfume, where they are neatly dressed, we kind of complain, and we are like, they look like a sissy. Why? Because the way they present themselves, this is not how most men are oriented. And that tells you that it's very important that we get to change the narrative, more so surrounding how men should take care of themselves. I remember there's a young man who was complaining, saying that their father was not okay whenever they were to visit some place, because the boy had to take his time, you know, washing, preparing himself, and their father was like, why are you conducting yourself like a woman? Telling you that many men out there are not in touch with themselves. And with that in mind, you know, we have placed so much responsibilities, there's so much expectations on the shoulders of men, where to a point whereby they don't even think of taking care of themselves. I remember, if I'm okay, then that means that I'll be in a position to support another person. I always say that if I can never share from an empty jar. You know, and for me to be in a position to share what I have, say a glass of water, then my jar has to be full. And that tells you, for me to love another person, then I have to love myself first. Okay, so it has to start with me, all right? And that's it's very important for us to teach the young boys that it's okay to bloom yourself in the right way. And remember what we said, one of the ways, one of the symptoms that we can, that we have on how mental health conditions manifest, and especially with depression, it comes to negligence when it comes to how we gloom ourselves, all right? So men out there, it's okay for you to take care of yourself. It's okay for you to reward yourself. It's okay for you to take yourself out for a date. You know, and I normally love asking people, and especially men, when was the last time that you took yourself out for a date? Okay, when is the last time that you bought yourself a new pair of socks, you know, or even shoes, right? Because we need to present ourselves the way that we want us to be addressed by the world out there. So let's not shy away from that. Okay,
thank you very much. We've come to the end of the show, and I hope you have learned a lot. So kindly don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel, Phancy Talk Show, like and comment. Thank you till next time. Bye.